Hi, Mark. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, thank you
Yes,
very much for saying yes to be interviewed today.
of
When I saw
course.
your, thank you. When I saw your profile, it is a very interesting topic to me because I myself I've had some thoughts about this, especially in the recent years, growing up as a Catholic myself. And I did, yeah, had some spiritual awakening and
Mm,
had the privilege of learning all other religion. And what a great opportunity to be speaking to you today. So I would be reading a bit of an introduction to our listeners
uh-huh.
today before we get right into our conversation. So, hi everyone, we have Mark Alsip here, who is a former fundamentalist young earth creationist, indoctrinated at the age of 6. Conflict soon arose over his love of science. Mark is alarmed at the intrusion of fundamentalism into all aspects of our society, especially the government, believing it has led to book bans, science denial, anti-LGBTQ legislation, and denial of women's reproductive rights. His upcoming book, Journey to Reason, describes how he broke free from fundamentalism and offers a stark warning of its dangers to society. Mark also writes the long-running Bad Science Debunk blog, where he does light-hearted takedowns of urban legends, science denial, and the abundance of misinformation available on social media. Wow. Well, before we go straight into business, Mark, could you share with us what was it like growing up as Mark Alsip?
Oh, it was traumatic at some points. As we
Oh.
said, was indoctrinated into a very fundamentalist religion at age 6, and it had some
Mm-hmm.
very strict rules, such as every verse in the Bible was literally true and had to be
Mm,
taken that way. And
right.
if you disregarded anything in the Bible, you were condemned basically to burning forever. And unfortunately, I was a lover of science and history. I still love science. It's my passion in life. I still hear the cat. um, but
Yeah. His name's
uh,
Mario. He's
no,
yeah,
that's
well
okay.
it's okay.
It's no worries. Maybe he'll chime in. But
Yeah.
yes.
He wants to be a part of the conversation.
So the conflicts between my church telling me that what I was learning in science I could see was true, and uh, being threatened with burning in hell, just for example, saying that rainbows existed before Noah's flood, and explaining in Sunday school the
Mm-hmm.
physics of a pyramid and talking about light, that causes a lot of trauma for a child. I don't think people realize how children really pick up on things and how smart they are.
Right.
Yeah, so I knew I had these two conflicting things going on, and that just compounded and like a snowball rolling down a hill, got worse and worse as I grew older, and it made the first 20 or so years of my life very difficult because I lived in two worlds. I had the world of the strict religion, and I had the world of science. Uh, I'm not saying all religion is bad. I wouldn't want your audience to think I'm saying that at all. But the fundamentalist, strict teachings,
Mm.
humans walking with dinosaurs, denial of evolution, just really did not make for a good mix for a young child. It caused a lot of trauma, a lot of nightmares, just a lot of. To me, it was emotional abuse of a child.
Mm.
It was very difficult, very difficult.
Right. So, can you then can you help me and the audience understand your early church to comparison between your early church to modern organizations such as Answers in Genesis, the Ark Encounter, and Creation Museum. These are very, very new to me.
Oh, it's interesting because they're so prominent here in the United States. So
Mhm.
basically, what Answers in Genesis has done with these theme parks that you've mentioned, the Ark Encounter, for example, is a supposed recreation of Noah's Ark. They spent millions of dollars building this huge wooden boat that honestly,
Wow.
structurally could never ever actually float in real life. They've basically taken what I was taught, all the fundamentalism, the threats,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of wrapped it up, put a pretty bow on it. We have a saying here in the United States, putting lipstick on a pig, where
Yeah. Ah,
you
okay.
if you yeah,
Yeah.
so
Heard of
they
that one.
have merry-go-rounds and zip lines and petting zoos and so forth. But the core message, I have been there, I've written about the Ark Encounter. The core message is still the same. You must believe that the earth was destroyed by flood. You must take every word of the Bible literally. The end of the trip, there's a plaque that really is disturbing, where it talks about how we all deserve to die and we deserve the punishment that's awaiting for us if we don't get saved and fall into this religion that Answers in Genesis is pushing. So I saw basically children my age during my visit going through the same indoctrination I did. It's just they prettied it up. And right now in my state of Kentucky and across the United States, we have the problem Answers in Genesis, and one of their legal friends. I think it's called Alliance Defending Freedom, Institute for Creation Research. A lot of the right-wing people in my country are trying to get the taxpayers to fund private religious education so that
Wow.
taxpayer dollars will be taken out of school,
Yeah.
public schools, and they will actually go to fund this type of very pseudoscientific belief. So
Mm.
we're in danger not just of, we've already crossed the line of separation of state and church,
Yeah.
but now we're
Yeah.
teaching skills, or we're not teaching critical thinking skills that children need to survive in the world. So, sorry, very long answer there, but
No, that's fine.
that's exactly what we're dealing with right now with the Answers in Genesis and some of the other organizations like that. It's very dangerous. They seem benign, but they're not.
It's to me, it's just creating more and more division and enlarging that gap between
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and there's no need to. I know many people of faith, very wonderful people who have no trouble with concepts like evolution or
Mm-hmm.
the Earth being 4.6 billion years old. The universe is
Right.
about 13.7 billion. They have no trouble with that. And they go out in their communities. They're Christians, Muslims, Jewish,
Yeah.
Hindu, atheists, agnostics, and they just do good works. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not hung up on these silly ideas of a 6,000-year-old Earth. So, as you alluded to, I think it's an unnecessary conflict. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see a reason for this, but they
Yeah.
insist, and they insist they don't want to just follow it for themselves. They want to force all of us to
To
follow it too.
follow. Yeah.
Yes,
And that's
yes,
the dangerous part.
that's
And
the
they
danger.
starting it at the very young age. And if these kids grow up and they become, I don't want to say extremists, but in the sense that they
No,
hold on to that so much, and they're not, it's too narrow. It's
yes.
really, really, yeah, detrimental collectively.
Yeah, well, when you take a 6-year-old child, as I was, and threaten them
Yeah.
literally with burning forever, one of the more traumatic episodes or chapters in
Mm.
Journey to Reason, I was sent to a movie when I was maybe 13. All of the local churches sent their children to this movie. It was on the
Mm-hmm.
end of times, familiar with the book of Revelation and the rapture
Yeah.
and all the trouble. We encountered imagery of humans being burned alive, reaching out to the screen, asking the audience to save them. Yes, I
Wow.
see your eyes shoot up. No, it gets worse. We had from the book of Revelation, the whore of Babylon drinking the blood of
Yeah.
Christians and the blood. This was at a time, I think if you're younger audience may not realize that back in the 1970s when I grew up, we didn't show blood or gore or the things that you see, so you take it for granted now, right?
Mm,
We never
mm,
saw that. In a crime movie, if somebody got shot, they would grasp for the chest and fall down. There was no blood. So you have
yeah.
this whole audience full of young children, and we were all crying and curled up in terror in our seats. This movie, you think there was a series, it was called Thief in the Night. You should check it out.
Mm,
It caused trauma for countless children. But to get to your point, when you take a child at this very young age and you tell them this is going to happen to you if you
yeah.
don't believe everything I tell you, they're going to believe whatever you tell them, and they're going to
Yeah.
grow up that way. And
Exactly.
that you can't, it's very difficult to break free from that. The longer you're in it, I was very lucky to break free, but it's to
You
me,
had your struggles.
it's I unabashedly call it child abuse. I can't think of another. I know that's a very provocative, harsh term,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
when you have children like I was crying themselves to sleep every night because they're afraid they're not
You're
doing
gonna be
what God
saved.
wants them. Yeah,
Good enough.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, thank you for sharing that story, Mark. Yeah, we're gonna go through some of the questions, which are
sure.
I have so many in my head right now.
Okay.
But you can just describe to us your fundamentalist young earth creationist upbringing. What were the rules and what were the conflicts?
Well, we've just because I've been talking so much,
Yeah.
we have touched on a lot of them. Again, the number one rule was that everything in the Bible was literally true. You do
Mm-hmm.
not question anything. And the conflicts became apparent immediately. I was fortunate enough to start reading at an adult level somewhere around age 8. And my first project, because I wanted to be a good Christian, was reading the Bible cover to cover. And I didn't make it past Genesis 2, the first 10 chapters of Genesis 2, when I started saying, wait a minute, they've got the order of creation wrong in these two books.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely wrong. They contradict each other. And my church actually tried to convince me not to read the Bible. They told me that, excuse me, I apologize.
That's okay.
They, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold here. Um, so they told me that, one of the things about being a good church member was getting guidance in the Bible, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
taught how to interpret things correctly. And I discovered that I was learning more about the Bible than they did. I was bringing up verses that they had never heard
Never.
of before because they only
Mm.
read what they wanted to believe. But no matter what problem I brought to them, they would always come to me and say, Mark, you just need to go away and pray on this. They couldn't answer
Okay.
my questions.
Yeah.
There were also, you mentioned problems growing up. Oh, a little backstory. I was going to say born Catholic. We're actually all born atheists. Then we become whatever
Yes,
religion.
exactly.
Yes.
That
Um,
was conditioned upon
that
us.
we're conditioned, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So my Catholic church told me that my father, being a Protestant, wasn't really a true Christian. And then we moved to Kentucky, and my fundamentalist church there told me my mom wasn't a Christian. They said Catholics didn't baptize people properly. We had the wrong number of books in our Bible. We were worshiping a pope, on and on
Mm,
and on, yada yada. The point of all this is, we're talking about conflicts and shaping my youth, was that once I got saved, I went to my teachers in church and said, wait a minute, my mom is Catholic. She's not going to go to heaven with me. And they said, you're right. Your mom's not going to go. And I was horrified. And they said, your duty now is to convert your mom, to bring your mom into the faith. Yes. So I dedicated myself to trying to bring my mom into the faith, and I felt like a failure to her and to my religion and to God. And uh, I would go to bed at night again with the nightmares, Nicolette, were just horrible. There was one that came over and over, and I still get a little emotional when I think about it, where I was in heaven and my mom, I could see her burning and reaching and pleading for me to help her. And I would go talk to this bright white light that was God and ask him, please help my mom. She's a saint. Bring her. And the voice was, no, she had her chance. She turned it down.
Mm,
And this is, I try to make the point that my book is tied very much to real life current events. If you talk to fundamentalist evangelical Christians in my country today, they will
mhm.
tell you that yes, billions of people are going to burn in hell, and they deserve it. They had their chance, they deserved it. Yes, there's an example from my youth of one of the many conflicts I had and how it applies to real life today. This is going on all across the United States right now.
And I think, to be honest, it's actually happening in the world as well, not just in the United
That's true.
States. Yeah,
You're right.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
And
Yes.
not just Christianity, other religions as well.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
Islam.
definitely.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
in
Yeah.
Islam, very alive in Islam.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and this is also why I kind of broke away from the idea of religion myself, but I do not go out and preaching that this is the way because I went into, I don't know, every kind of modality I can find because I had my trauma. So it's like I lost myself. Now I had to find myself again. And so I went into all sorts of divination tool, anything, you name it. And then going back to Freud, Carl Jung, Hermeticism, like I looked and read about all of that. And right now, as long as I'm still breathing, we're all learning. But
Mhm.
it's not that how do I say this? I'm not, I now, it's clearer to me that I don't have the right to judge any other belief or faith people
Yeah.
have, and trying to see it for as it is for the I don't- yeah, just as it is. And I think I go by the mantra of do good as you want others to do unto you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed in your bio that you've had
Yeah.
some similar experiences to me, and
Yeah.
I think you've summed it up quite well. That's a good way to live. I'm so happy to let everyone else live and believe the way they want to, but please don't force that on me. Don't
Yeah.
tell everyone else how to live.
Condemned. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what was the pivotal point, Mark, that you knew that you had to get away from this and move towards, the current, I would say, faith or belief or your understanding that you hold on to right now? Yeah.
I get asked that a lot, and I don't know that there was one exact moment. The way the book is structured, I build up little vignettes, maybe 50 or 60 very short stories. Excuse me again, Nicola, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I am so
I
sorry. I I
no,
would have adjusted your time to at least
no,
eight.
you're good. I came down with a chest cold yesterday, so
Oh, I'm so sorry to
but
hear that.
no, but I'm very happy to be here. So if you and your viewers are okay with me taking a sip of
Please.
it's yes, back to the question. Not one pivotal moment, but I tell a series of very short stories over maybe about 50 chapters, and these stories are only about 4 pages long. They're very short, little introspective moments in my life when I realized how I learned that stealing things was wrong, or how I learned that science was correct in a certain situation. So all of these events came together, they built slowly, and at some point I finally looked at the sum total of all my experiences and said, you know, I just can't follow this religion. I can't worship a creator who would burn people. I just can't do this anymore. Reading the Bible helped me break free a lot, believe it or not, because I could see that if you take it literally, which is what my
Mhm.
religion required, if you take it
Mhm.
literally, you realize it's not true. I'm not trying to convert anybody, or
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make fun of anyone's beliefs. I know a lot of people who find comfort spiritually. There
Mhm.
are good lessons. To me, the Sermon on the Mount is one of the most beautiful pieces of literature ever written. But the Bible itself cannot be literally true, as I was taught. And then I think the final straw, maybe there was a moment that pushed me over. It was the realization as I studied religious studies formally in university, when I realized that my religion was saying God was all knowing. He knew everything in advance. He knew what choice I was going to make, right? That I was not going to. He created me anyway,
In his
no matter
image.
in his image.
Yes.
And I, according to the fundamentalists, am not going to make it into heaven no matter what I do. And I could not reconcile
That
being
is so
creating anyone.
paradox, right?
Isn't it? Isn't it?
What a juxtaposition.
Yes, I just can't. And again, to be fair, there are a lot of religious people out there who do not hold these strict beliefs, but this is my story. This is where I came from. And unfortunately, I don't think people, not just in the United States, but around the world, are taking it seriously enough that there are a lot of people who really hold these fundamentalist beliefs, and they're getting louder and louder and louder. So it's
Yeah,
time to speak up. It's time to speak
that's
out
right.
against them.
That's right. I had several guests also coming up because, as you can tell, my podcast talks a lot about
Yes.
self-worth and also spirituality. So we often touch these topics, and we somehow feel like, at least energetically, the world is waking up, but we're coming from a it's waking up to have maybe the end of each spectrum, where one is waking up to the truth and one is becoming, they're holding tighter to what
Yeah,
they
it's a
believe.
good point.
And it is really like, this is it, or this is all or nothing. And the other one is like, maybe there's something that I there's so much more that I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, right?
That's a great way to look at the
Yeah, look
world. I
at it.
mean,
Yeah,
scientists,
exactly.
the first step to everything is saying, just being honest, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
I
Yeah.
don't know what happened before the Big Bang. It's
Yes.
paradoxical to talk about what happened before time began anyway, but
Hmm.
I say I don't know, and maybe we'll find out, maybe we won't, but
Yeah.
people on the other side claim to have all the answers. Oh, we know exactly, and I'm like, please just be honest and say you don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be able to have this kind of conversation with people that are like yourself, and I believe there are a community just like you and I out there that is just trying to raise the awareness, trying to raise the consciousness um level collectively by by doing, I'll just say it simply, the baseline: just do good.
Yes,
Just don't, yeah. Just do
that's
good.
really, that's it.
Yeah, that's
That's
it.
it. That's all you need to say,
Exactly.
and then actually go out and do it.
Yeah, and go out and do it. Yeah. And
Yes,
just don't say it, walk the talk, just show your
yes,
action.
yeah. There's actually, I still remember the Bible pretty well, and there's a verse in Matthew, I believe, that talks about, don't, basically what you said, don't advertise or talk about how good you are. Actually go out and do it. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so
So we mentioned about this, Mark, but can you list a bit of some current examples of how religious fundamentalism is harming the country and the world as a whole?
oh, definitely. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, where to begin?
Begin, where to begin?
Yeah, there are some very simple things right now, like book bans, which are having in the United
Mm,
States.
mm,
Uh, stories that are extremely important, like the Diary of Anne Frank, the Holocaust story, or
Right.
another Holocaust story, a very good book called Mouse,
Hmm.
have been pulled. So instead of a parent saying to the child, "You can't read this book," they're telling every child, "You can't read these books." I was taught, believe it or not, as a child that slavery had benefits. My church taught me, yes, I know, you can't make this up, and it's not just a small segment like you think it would be. My church taught that as well. That is now being echoed in our state of Florida. They have a
Hmm.
law now where teachers are required to teach children that slavery taught good trade skills to people.
Ooh, I am
Yes.
scared for the world.
Oh, Nicolette, it gets much worse. I'm building up to the big stuff.
Okay.
Um, the elephant in the room for me always is a woman's right to her own reproductive
Hmm.
care, and
Right.
whatever your feelings on that, the arguments that got Roe v. Wade struck down here were religious arguments. And we also have those same religious arguments being used against the LGBTQ community. We have science denial here is rampant. People are getting their science education, things like vaccines and climate change, from their churches or from. I've actually had people tell me that taking a vaccine is like getting the mark of the beast. Now, yeah, and I can't stress this enough.
No
This is,
comment.
yeah, they honestly believe they're getting microchipped. This, unfortunately, is not just one or two people, do this, but the greater problem is that science is being taken out of our schools. We don't have people who read biology, so they don't understand evolution, they don't understand vaccines, they don't understand
So
climate
weird.
change. And this brings me to a
Okay.
point that is very important right now in Kentucky. We have House Bill number 2, which comes up for vote in November. Our Constitution currently prohibits funding private religious schools with taxpayer money. They're going to try to overturn that part of our Constitution so that I, as a taxpayer, will have to pay for people to pull their child out of a public school and put them in a private religious school where they will be taught that the earth was created 6,000 years ago. And it's just everywhere you turn, we have religion intruding into our private lives here. So I'm sorry, very long answer, but that I could go on and on. The list, the list just goes on and on.
It's like we're advancing technologically,
Yes,
AI, but we're regressing at the same time.
we are.
This
We are. I mean, one of the
again a
examples.
paradox.
Well, we just in the last year launched a rocket and hit a tiny, tiny little
Hmm.
rock in space.
Mhm.
Was it 100 million miles? I don't want to give an exact number if I don't. It was millions and millions of miles away. We have that kind of technology to the point we could possibly defend our planet from something that wiped out life here 65 million years ago. So we have that
Yeah.
kind of technology, and yet we have people who are wrapping their cell phones in tinfoil because they're afraid of this radiation that I can't wrap
Yeah.
my brain
You
around.
can
So
you can fathom.
we're
I
going forward
totally
and
get it.
backwards.
Yeah, exactly. We're going forward and backwards, taking 1,000 steps and then taking 1 million steps back. I mean,
Exactly.
that's extreme.
Exactly.
But I like coming back to your point of people not being exposed to biology. It is so true because I really stand by the notion of knowledge is power and also accepting that you do not know everything. You only
Exactly.
know so
Yes.
much.
Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's like I do not how do I say this? I'm also very aware of myself. Like, I have read books and I have tried to dig deep into certain things that I don't know, and I said I want to know, and I found out about things that is so mind-boggling. But then I put the pieces together and connected the dots myself. And sometimes during that early stage, you feel like, oh, I feel I know something and I want to let you know, especially when you're friends or people around you. But then you take a step back and say, what if they're not ready to receive this information? What if they're not ready to see what you're seeing?
Yeah.
And you can't change it. You can't force it upon them. You just have to continue on with your journey. And again, talking to different people like you or other people out there, and just not to say, yeah, hope is a good thing. Yes, hope. And because everybody is in their own journey, right? They might wake up in this lifetime or they may
Yeah.
not.
They may
And it is
not.
also fine.
Yeah.
It is not, yeah, it is not our job to change or help steer them in the, I don't know, right direction. Or again, we just have to walk the talk. If we feel there's, then we
Yeah.
do good. Yeah.
Well,
They see
I've
us. Yeah.
yeah, I've realized that a lot of what I'm saying is not going to reach people. They are
Yeah.
so entrenched in their beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and that that does sadden me, especially since these people do go and vote on election day, and
Mm-hmm.
they
Oh, yeah.
can
Yes, yes,
put in
yes.
a candidate who probably is oh my goodness, I need to check my oh, there we go, my power. I just got a warning
Oh,
my
okay.
battery. Yes. Oh my goodness. Is it Monday morning or what?
It
I,
is my side it's Wednesday, so it's Tuesday your side.
we just, the joke here and is that Monday is
It's like
everything
when,
goes
yeah,
wrong,
because
but yeah,
Monday's blue. Yeah. I
yeah.
I got
But
it.
yeah, I mean, to your point, you're right. You're not going to change everybody's mind, and I don't go out trying to convince people not to believe in their religion. My mission is more to understand that your religion is your thing. It's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Practice it yourself however you want to, but
Yeah.
please leave me alone. Please leave me out of it. I think that's the best we can do. What worries me is that I think the other side, the religious, the fundamentalists, are trying to turn education into something that will only let children grow up to be in their belief system.
Yeah.
They're taking away this critical thinking. There's very little
Yeah.
oversight, for example, in private schools. They can do whatever they want,
Whatever they want,
basically.
because it's
Yeah,
not regulated or,
it's not regulated.
yeah. Yeah.
So I do worry about our future in that way. I still believe very strongly in a good secular public education. And then go to church or synagogue or mosque or temple
Yeah.
and practice your beliefs, and we could all get along.
Yes. 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 Yes, and I'm a product of a public school system, and I'm here
Same
talking
here.
to, yeah.
Yeah. We can't, you and I are not expert scientists, but we maybe learned a little more science than those who didn't have a passion for that. We maybe learned a little more history or whatever. And I think rather than being embarrassed by that, let's be honest about what we don't know, as you mentioned
Yeah.
at the beginning of the
Yeah.
podcast. Let's be
Yeah.
honest about what we don't know. But here, now I notice a trend. When you talk about what you do know, you're kind of ridiculed. You're made fun of. Have you noticed that?
Yes, it's
Yes.
so it is so rampant that you whenever you try to speak up, it is almost like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I know. Yes.
Yeah. And but again, it is me even having this podcast, I know that I have to tread lightly, but it is just for the sake of again, knowledge for people who might not even have thought of this. They might see this in a different light,
Yeah.
and not to offend anybody. So that's why,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was brought up again in fundamentalism, and I could probably come up with the Bible verses pretty quickly. I was almost taught to be offended because of my beliefs. I was taught to feel persecuted. So there is a segment of fundamentalism where any criticism of the religion, like I said, you have to believe every word of the Bible is true. So if you say anything about religion, all of a sudden you've offended someone. So it makes
Hmm.
it very difficult to have a conversation in the
Yeah,
first place. You know,
exactly.
yeah, for
Without
some,
getting riled up that,
yeah,
oh, my
yeah.
views
Well,
are
we
correct and
give
yours are you. Yeah.
Yeah, we give religion, I think, maybe a free pass from scrutiny, and I'm not saying we should be attacking it necessarily, but I don't see a reason not to examine it critically. How are you going to learn if you can't admit you may be wrong and
Yeah,
examine your
that's
beliefs?
very powerful. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
How you gonna how you can learn if you are not willing to
yes.
even admit that, there are things that you may not know.
Hmm.
And accepting that is super difficult for me at first, that,
Yeah,
oh, I thought I knew it. And the humility, ooh, and then it's like just the message coming from
yeah,
somewhere, like, yeah, okay, this is, yeah.
yeah.
Whew. All right, Mark, so what is next for you?
Well, right now I am in the process of promoting the book. That is a lot harder than writing it. Writing it was actually the easiest. It just the words just flowed. The book poured out of me. People were like, "How did you write?" It's a reasonable size. It's about 350 pages, so it's a normal sized nonfiction book. But how did you write it that quickly? And that was easy. But I am, I've written for some major publications, Forbes, Skeptical Inquirer, National Center for Science Education. I do have some street cred, but I'm still a relative unknown. And right now, with the book being written, the next steps for me are getting out and talking to folks such as yourself and letting them know the book is out there. And I have a message, and I hope people will listen to it. Publicity is very hard. It's not something I was ever trained in, but
I
that is
I
the
I
next
I
step.
can feel you. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel you. Like, I myself am about to venture into my own therapy and coaching practice, and it's
Oh,
super
interesting.
different.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's super
You have to
different.
learn to
And
market. Yeah.
exactly. And marketing is 80% of the whole thing. The product or the service is
Yes.
10, and the other one
Yeah.
is, another operations is 10. And yeah, marketing is the big chunk of it. So, but
Yeah.
I believe if we have the right intention as to why we're trying to promote our service or our books or whatever it may be, just, I don't know, simple, the lid even.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a purpose, and sorry, the intention is right, then it will market.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, I
You do the best you can. That's all you can do.
yeah, I'm
But
rooting for you, Mark.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's helpful to get on and get exposure like this, and we'll see what happens. If I'm not really doing this to get rich or anything. I
Mhm.
want to get the message out. I'm going to continue speaking.
Yeah.
I have a second book planned
Ah,
already, no matter what
fantastic.
happens with the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but we have some important legal battles coming up here in Kentucky. You asked, what's coming next. I'm
Oh,
trying to get
really? What is
active
it?
in
Oh.
fighting against this House Bill 2, we have a government-funded, they call it a faith trail,
Right.
very shadowy organization that is promoting one particular religion with government dollars. So, yeah, I'm just planning to stay active and try to say, hey, please practice your religion. Just keep me out of it. Yeah,
Wow. Sending all the love and light your way, Mark,
thank you.
and
I
your
appreciate it.
state.
Very much appreciated.
So, Mark, I'm going to pivot to a self-worth question because
Okay,
my podcast talks a lot about self-worth.
absolutely.
So, your question for you, Mark. How would you define self-worth and why is it crucial for personal growth and happiness?
Self-worth is my feeling about myself. Do I appreciate and value my contributions to my family, to society as a whole? It's a very interesting question because in my religious upbringing, my self-worth was defined by my religion. I was not a worthy person. I was a very flawed person. I was failed. I could not be a good person without Jesus.
Mm.
And I had to overcome that and learn to rely on my own morals, my own education, to place a value on myself and say, yes, Mark, you're a good person. You're a flawed person, Mark. You have things, you can always improve on, but am I doing the best that I can? Am I fulfilling my obligations to my wife? Am I fulfilling I say obligations, maybe that's not the best word. Am I worthy in their eyes? Is my wife proud of me as a husband? Is my mom proud of me as a son? Am I helping them? And just the general community, am I doing enough charity work? Am I doing things to benefit others around me? And that's where I get my self-worth from. When I left religion, all my feelings of self-worth went away because they were all based on my religious
Right.
belief. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to build all of them back up again from the ground just based
Yes.
on secular ideas. And this is a concept, there's a really good book out there. It's called Leaving the Fold by Dr. Marlene Winnell, if I'm
Mm.
pronouncing her name correctly. She's a psychiatrist who specializes in helping people through religious trauma. And she talks a lot about self-worth, which is why I think you may be interested in that book because
Yeah.
a lot of her patients talk about losing their entire sense of self-worth because of leaving
Oh,
religion. So
it's
there's
very
there's our
familiar.
yes, there's our deep dive answer on self-worth.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. Maybe you could share me the name of the book and I
I
could
will put that in
look
our
it up.
chat. I'll put
Yeah.
that in the chat after. It's a good read. I think you'll appreciate it. It's very
Yeah.
much in line with the work you're doing here. So yes,
That'd be great. Thank you, Mark.
yes.
So, Mark, what is your heart's greatest wish?
Oh my gosh. That's really a hard one. I think I have most everything that I need in the world. There's some things that
That's a
I
really good answer. I like that. But that means you're content,
I'm
right?
pretty
Yeah.
content, yes.
Yes.
I think right now it would be just to be able to live my life out to the end of my days with good health and continue the experiences that I've accumulated over the years, hopefully along with my wonderful wife and time with my family and just yeah, I shouldn't overthink this answer. That really is my answer. I just want to live my life as a good person and enjoy the time I have here.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful
Yes,
answer.
thank you.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Yes, very much. And we've already touched on it. Always say, or don't be afraid to say, I don't know. That that is the number one thing. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm going to look for the answer. That is my
That's
mantra. I live by that very
yeah,
much. So yes,
that's a good one. So, Mark, is there anything that keeps you up at night or do you sleep well?
I actually sleep pretty well now. As I said, during my religious trauma, I suffered a lot. I will. on occasion struggle over some news that I've seen, perhaps, political developments or some of the wars that we have going on. There are things that go on in the world that worry me, and I tend to think about them. But generally, yeah, I've had to learn through many various paths, many ways of calming my mind and putting things aside and just going to bed and falling asleep and then deal with the problems again when they come up in the morning.
Yeah, oh, that's a good way. Yeah, yeah, that is, and it is I think one of the best, if not, way to be able to put the problem today and leave it to tomorrow because you're done. I don't know. Battling it seems very, very laborious, but I just want to
Yeah,
say, like, yeah, we've done our best. We woken up in the day, carried our duties, and then just sleep and then continue tomorrow. It's a
yeah.
good one. Right, Mark. Last question.
Sure.
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Oh boy, that's a good one. Let me think on that. A quote to leave in legacy. You know what? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go back to my mantra. I'm going to tell the world, I'm going to tell everyone, don't be afraid to admit you're wrong. Don't be afraid to examine your beliefs. And if you find out that maybe you're not correct, you'll be a better person for admitting that and changing your mind. That would be my mantra.
I kind of knew you were gonna say that, and it's a beautiful one. Well,
Thank
Mark,
you.
thank you so much for your time. I guess that's a what a way to end our conversation today.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. I was really happy that you reached out, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. I thank you so much,
Same here.
Nicolette. Yes,
You're doing great work, Mark, and I wished all the best and sending you all the love and light with whatever that you going through in your state, in your country, and the work that you're doing.
thank you. My best wishes to you, and good luck with your podcast. I will definitely let people know about it, and
Oh, thank you
yes,
so much. Oh yeah, we're connected. I'm gonna be
yes,
following you in some of your social media. So when
yes,
this airs, then we'll connect. You can tag
absolutely.
me.
Okay, thank you, Nicolette. I'll
All
do
right.
that. Have a
Thank
great
you.
afternoon. Yeah.
You have a great day. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.